What if wisdom begins not with answers, but with disillusionment? Ecclesiastes opens like a whisper from eternity. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It shocks you because it refuses to flatter the human heart. It doesn't promise a perfect life. It tells you the truth about it. Everything we chase, success, pleasure, fame, fades like smoke at sunset. But in that fading, something divine begins to appear. The Book of Ecclesiastes is not a cry of despair. It is an awakening. It's the mirror of the soul, stripped bare before God. The author, the preacher, speaks not as a cynic, but as a man who has seen too much of the world to be fooled by it. He looks at life's beauty and absurdity, and still says, "Fear God, because only reverence makes sense when everything else collapses." Have you ever reached that point where the things that once made you happy no longer fill you? That's not depression. It's divine hunger. Ecclesiastes meets you there, in the silence after the applause, in the emptiness after success, and teaches you to see through heaven's eyes. God has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Ecclesiastes 3:11. That verse holds the secret of the entire book. It tells you that beauty and suffering are not enemies, they are twins. That time and eternity are not separate, they dance together. And that God is not absent from your chaos. He is inside it, inviting you to rediscover meaning, not in what you own, but in who you become. Ecclesiastes doesn't destroy your faith, it purifies it. It burns away the religious cliches and empty rituals to reveal a deeper kind of trust. The kind that believes even when life makes no sense. The kind that says, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. So stay with me through this journey." Because this book, this ancient whisper of divine wisdom, might change forever how you see God, life, and yourself. Religion teaches you what to believe, but Ecclesiastes teaches you how to see. Not through the stained glass of rituals, but through the raw sunlight of existence. The preacher doesn't invite you to build another temple. He invites you to open your eyes and find God in the fragile rhythm of ordinary days. To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3. You start to realize that faith is not built only in moments of worship, but in the small pauses between tasks, in the whisper of the wind, in the silence that follows a prayer unanswered. God is not locked inside the sanctuary. He walks with you through your work, your laughter, your disappointments, your fatigue. The Saint-Esprit, the breath of God, does not only descend on the prophets. He breathes through your every inhale. He teaches you to stop performing faith and start living it. Because to fear God in Ecclesiastes is not to tremble before him, it is to stand in awe of his mystery. When Solomon says, "Everything is vanity," he's not denying God. He's exposing illusion. He's pulling the curtain on the idea that we can control life, predict blessing, or buy divine favor. You can't. You can only rest in the truth that God is God, and you are human, dust kissed by grace. In that humility, you begin to see the sacred in the simple. The morning coffee becomes communion. The laughter of a friend becomes a psalm. Even the ache in your heart becomes prayer. Because once you stop dividing life into holy and ordinary, you begin to see that everything belongs to Him. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Ecclesiastes 9:10. This is how Ecclesiastes redefines spirituality. It's not about escaping the world. It's about meeting God within it. It's not about doing more. It's about being awake to the divine presence in all things. And when you start to live like that, even silence becomes worship. God doesn't need your perfection. He wants your attention. He wants to walk with you in the marketplace, sit with you in your loneliness, and whisper peace when the noise of the world grows loud. He's not a distant monarch. He is the breath in your lungs. And once you realize that, you stop searching for meaning elsewhere. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. That stillness. That's where the real faith begins. Not the loud kind, but the quiet surrender that says, even when I don't understand, I trust you. Ecclesiastes teaches you this sacred surrender, to stop explaining God and start experiencing Him. And as this wisdom sinks deeper, you begin to understand why the preacher wrote in Paradoxes. Because God is not a problem to solve, He's a mystery to enter. He hides not to punish, but to invite. And sometimes, the absence you feel is just His way of teaching you presence. Life is not meaningless. It only becomes meaningless when you chase what was never meant to satisfy you. The preacher cries, vanity of vanities, not to depress you, but to wake you. He's saying, stop running after smoke. You reach for wealth, it slips through your fingers. You build monuments, time erases them. You try to control destiny, and life laughs softly, because meaning is not found in control, but in surrender. What do people gain from all their labors under the sun? Ecclesiastes 1:3. Every generation repeats the same cycle. Chasing, grasping, forgetting. We think we are progressing, but we are often just running in circles with shinier toys. Ecclesiastes breaks that circle and whispers, be still. Look at the sun, it rises and sets. Look at the rivers, they flow endlessly. Yet nothing truly changes except the heart that learns to see differently. That is wisdom, not to escape time, but to walk in rhythm with it. The Saint-Esprit teaches you to slow down, to breathe, to observe, to savor. Because when you rush through life, you miss the fingerprints of God on every detail. He hides in a laugh, in a sigh, in a leaf falling quietly. The illusion of modern man is that meaning is somewhere far, but in truth it is right here, within the moment you live. Better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Ecclesiastes 4:6. The illusion of more is the oldest lie. You think abundance means fullness, but fullness often means simplicity. The soul is not nourished by what it has, but by what it can let go of. You can only see life clearly when you stop trying to own it. Ecclesiastes strips you of illusions to give you freedom. It teaches that joy doesn't come from multiplying pleasures, but from learning gratitude. It's not the next thing that will make you whole. It's recognizing that you already have enough. That revelation transforms even the smallest day into a sanctuary. There is nothing better than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Ecclesiastes 3:12. The preacher doesn't hate pleasure, he redeems it. He says, enjoy but don't idolize. Work but don't worship the work. Love but don't lose your soul in it. Life is beautiful but fragile, and that fragility is what makes it sacred. Every breath is a gift. Every sunrise, a sermon. The illusion of permanence is another trap. You build, you plan, you dream, and yet one day you will return to dust. But this truth is not meant to scare you. It's meant to set you free. Because when you remember your brevity, you begin to live wisely. You forgive faster, you laugh easier, and you love without calculation. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Genesis 3:19, the Saint-Esprit whispers, stop fearing endings. Even in endings, there is a beginning you cannot see. What fades teaches you to hold tighter to what remains, God Himself. He alone is constant in a world that vanishes like breath. And when you finally accept that truth, you stop trying to be immortal and start living eternally. So yes, life under the sun can feel like chasing wind. But once you learn to see beyond the illusions, you realize the wind itself is holy. The chase was not punishment, it was invitation, and meaning was never lost. It was simply waiting for you to stop, breathe, and see. You are not the center of the universe, and that is your freedom. Ecclesiastes whispers this truth not to humiliate, but to liberate you. When you stop believing that everything depends on you, you start breathing again. The sun will rise without your permission. The wind will blow even if you stay silent. And yet, in this vastness, God has still chosen to know your name. For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It is recognizing that your story fits within a divine story much greater than you. You are dust, yes, but dust carried by grace. You are temporary yet loved eternally. And this paradox, small but chosen, is where your soul begins to find peace. The Saint-Esprit teaches you to let go of control. He whispers, stop trying to understand everything. Start trusting the one who does. You don't have to hold the world together. That's God's job. You don't have to know the outcome. You only need to walk faithfully today. Ecclesiastes shows that true wisdom begins the moment you kneel before mystery. Do not be hasty to utter a word before God, for God is in heaven and you are on earth. So let your words be few. Ecclesiastes 5:2 Pride builds towers. Humility plants gardens. The proud strive to reach heaven. The humble invite heaven down. The proud say, look at what I've built. The humble say, look at what God is doing in me. And it is always through the humble that the Spirit performs his greatest works, quietly, patiently, perfectly. The preacher wants you to see your limits not as curses, but as reminders. You cannot know everything. You cannot save everyone. You cannot avoid suffering. But that doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it sacred. Because the very things you cannot control become the spaces where you learn dependence on God. And that dependence, that gentle surrender, is the purest form of wisdom. As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. Ecclesiastes 11, to see yourself with humility is to walk slower, to speak softer, to listen longer. It's learning that you are not called to be everything, only to be faithful in the small things. And in those small acts, kindness, forgiveness, silence, God writes eternal meaning into temporary moments. The wise heart doesn't need applause. It smiles when unseen, it gives when unthanked, it forgives when unrecognized. Because it knows that heaven sees everything. Even your smallest prayer is recorded. Even your quiet endurance is remembered. You don't need to prove your worth. You were already chosen. Humility is the soil of revelation. Only the lowly can see clearly. For when your heart kneels, your eyes rise. You begin to perceive that every breath is borrowed, every sunrise is mercy renewed, and every tear is a step closer to wisdom. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Ecclesiastes 12:13, to see yourself with humility is to finally be at peace with imperfection. To realize that being broken doesn't disqualify you, it prepares you. Because grace doesn't flow from heights, it descends. And when it finds a humble heart, it fills it completely. There is a sacred rhythm to everything. The sun doesn't rise 1 minute early. The rain doesn't fall 1 second late. And neither does the hand of God move before its time. You may not understand the season you're in, but faith means trusting the one who wrote the calendar of your life. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3, and every soul must pass through winter before spring. There are times to build and times to break, times to speak and times to stay silent, times to dance and times to weep. The Saint-Esprit doesn't rush your process, he refines it. Because waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. The preacher teaches that divine timing is never cruel. When God seems late, it's because he's building depth. He doesn't bless what's not yet rooted. He doesn't reveal what your heart isn't ready to carry. So when nothing seems to happen, it means everything is happening. But underground, he has made everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11, faith grows best in slow seasons. When doors remain closed, it teaches you peace. When prayers feel unanswered, it teaches you surrender. The Spirit uses waiting to purify your desires until you no longer want what shines, but what sanctifies. There is beauty in divine delay, because the time you call delay is the time God calls development. He's not ignoring you, he's growing you. Every day of silence, every unanswered cry is shaping the humility needed for the blessing ahead. The tree doesn't fight winter, it trusts the root. Do not say, "Why were the former days better than these?" For it is not wisdom that you ask this. Ecclesiastes 7:10, impatience is the enemy of revelation. If you rush the process, you ruin the promise. God hides his treasures in time because only faith can wait long enough to find them. When you understand this, you stop forcing things. You begin to rest, breathe, and recognize that every season, even pain, has a purpose. The Saint-Esprit invites you to live aligned, not hurried, to see that every delay conceals a design, every silence contains a message, every closed door protects a miracle not yet ready. The divine clock is never wrong. It just doesn't tick according to your fears. The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but time and chance happen to them all. Ecclesiastes 9. When you understand the seasons of God, you no longer panic during storms. You plant seeds in faith, you water them with prayer, and you wait, not with anxiety, but with confidence. Because you know that what is planted in obedience will bloom in the exact moment of grace. And so you stop asking, "When, Lord?" and start saying, "Whenever, Lord." You stop measuring your life by progress and start measuring it by presence. That's when peace replaces striving and patience becomes proof of trust. Life will never be perfect, but it can always be beautiful. Ecclesiastes teaches that joy is not found in what changes, but in what remains when everything changes. When you stop chasing happiness and start noticing grace, you begin to live differently. Joy is not a reward, it is a way of seeing. And there is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. Ecclesiastes 2:24. The preacher reminds you that pleasure is not evil. It simply becomes empty when it forgets God. So, he teaches a new holiness, to savor the taste of bread with gratitude, to look at the sky and whisper, "Thank you," to find sacredness in laughter and rest. Because heaven is not just a place, it's a way of living awake. The Saint-Esprit invites you to stop surviving and start receiving. He whispers, "Slow down, joy is passing by." Every sunrise is a sermon, every smile is a blessing, every meal shared is communion. You don't need more miracles, you need more awareness of the ones already around you. This too, I see, is from the hand of God, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? Ecclesiastes 2:24-25. The illusion of the world is that joy is somewhere else. But the wise heart knows joy is here, in the silence of morning prayer, in the smell of rain, in the arms of someone who loves you without words. Every moment becomes holy when you stop waiting for better ones. Gratitude doesn't change your situation, it changes your sight. You start to see blessings where others see routine. You begin to feel the rhythm of grace under ordinary days. The soul that knows gratitude never runs out of joy. Because joy is not what happens to you, it's what you allow to happen in you. Go, eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart. For God has already approved what you do. Ecclesiastes 9:7. To find joy in the simple things is to reclaim wonder, to notice how the light hits the wall, how a bird sings outside your window, how breath itself is proof of mercy. The proud seek miracles in thunder, the humble find them in morning dew, and the Saint-Esprit smiles in both. True joy is not noisy and it's still. It lives quietly in souls that trust. It doesn't shout, it glows. It doesn't demand, it receives. It doesn't wait for everything to be fixed. It knows that even in brokenness, God is good. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. So breathe. Look around you. The coffee in your hand, the air in your lungs, the peace in this moment. These are not accidents. They are gifts. And the moment you begin to see them as such, you will discover that heaven has been near all along, not in the extraordinary, but in the everyday grace of God. Death is not the enemy of faith. Illusion is. Ecclesiastes speaks of endings not to make you fear them, but to teach you how to live fully before they come. He whispers, "Remember your Creator before the days of trouble come," because to remember God is to return home in advance. The wise do not run from endings, they walk toward them with eyes of eternity. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Ecclesiastes 12:1. Seven, we spend our lives building, but one day the hands that built will tremble. The preacher doesn't hide this truth. He sanctifies it. He shows that mortality is not a curse. It's an invitation to live awake. When you know that your days are numbered, every moment becomes priceless. The Saint-Esprit whispers gently, "Do not fear what ends, fear what never begins." Too many die having existed but never truly lived. You were not created to accumulate dust, but to leave light wherever you pass. And that light, love, faith, compassion, is the only thing death cannot erase. The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride. Ecclesiastes 7:8 endings bring clarity. They strip life of its noise and vanity. They make you ask what truly mattered. And the answer is always the same. What you gave, what you loved, what you believed. In the end, it's not what you held that remains, but what you let God hold through you. When Ecclesiastes says, "Fear God and keep His commandments," he's not offering religion, he's revealing purpose. To fear God is to honor the mystery, to walk humbly knowing that He alone knows the thread. All wisdom converges into this, to live with reverence and to die in peace. The preacher's final words are not dark, they're serene. He's telling you that meaning doesn't die, it transforms. The body returns to dust, but the soul returns to its source. And if you have lived in awareness of that source, then even death is not separation, it's reunion. For God will bring every deed into judgment, with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Ecclesiastes 12:14, this verse isn't threat, it's promise. It means nothing is wasted, nothing forgotten. Every tear, every kindness, every hidden prayer is gathered by the eternal and kept. Your story doesn't end in the grave. It continues in the memory of God, and He remembers forever. So when you face the end of a season, a dream, or a life, don't call it the end. Call it revelation, because that's when you'll finally see that all the moments of confusion, silence, and pain were actually pieces of one great mosaic, and the image it formed was God's face. In that final clarity, all the questions fade, and what remains is peace. A peace not earned but given. A peace that whispers, you were never lost. You were always being led home. That is the wisdom of Ecclesiastes and the promise of eternity. There is a mystery inside you, a silent echo that no noise of the world can silence. Ecclesiastes names it eternity. God has placed it in your heart so that nothing temporary can ever satisfy you. That hunger for more, that restlessness you feel, it's not weakness. It's homesickness for heaven. Your soul remembers where it came from. He has set eternity in the human heart. Ecclesiastes 3:11, to live with eternity in your heart is to walk lightly on earth. You stop clinging to things that fade, money, status, applause. You begin to live for what cannot die, love, truth, mercy. The Saint-Esprit teaches you to carry heaven in your gaze, to see beyond appearances, to build altars in ordinary days. You no longer ask for long life, you ask for deep life. The world tells you to chase more. Eternity whispers, be still. The world says, prove yourself. Eternity says, you are already known. The world measures time by clocks. Heaven measures it by transformation. And every moment lived in awareness of God becomes timeless. Better is the day of death than the day of birth. Ecclesiastes 7:1. Those words sound strange until you understand them. The day of death is not tragedy for the soul that has lived awake. It is fulfillment. It's the moment when faith becomes sight, when the breath you borrowed returns to its source. Eternity doesn't begin after life. It begins when you realize life was never separate from it. Living with eternity in your heart means seeing your days as seeds. Each act of kindness, each word of faith, each prayer whispered in secret plants, something that will bloom beyond this world. You are not passing through time, you are preparing for glory. The harvest of your soul is already being written in light. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. Ecclesiastes 9:10, that is the call of eternity. Not to escape life, but to sanctify it. To cook, to work, to love, to forgive, not as if it ends, but as if it lasts forever. Because every humble action done in love echoes in heaven, and nothing done for God ever disappears. Eternity gives you perspective. Suddenly, success loses its noise, failure loses its sting, and waiting loses its fear. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Use me." You realize the goal of life is not comfort, it is communion. The Saint-Esprit writes eternity in the smallest gestures. When you forgive, when you pray for someone unseen, when you smile through pain, you are living in eternity's language. You don't have to reach heaven. You have to let heaven reach through you. That is the quiet revolution of faith. To live with eternity in your heart is to walk this earth as a pilgrim, not a tourist. You travel light, love deeply, give freely, rest peacefully. You know that every ending is a return, and every breath is borrowed grace. And when your time comes to go home, you will not fear the door, because you've already learned how to live with eternity inside you. And that Ecclesiastes began to write through you. Write in the comments, "Lord, teach me to live with eternity in my heart," because this isn't just a sentence, it's a prayer that changes everything. And if this message has touched your soul, subscribe to Life in Christ. Here, every word is light, every silence is prayer, and every video is an encounter with the Holy Spirit. Share this video with someone who is searching for meaning, because sometimes a simple word can reopen heaven in a life. And remember, you don't need to understand everything to believe, you just need to stay in the light.